Hey, everybody. Welcome to the Earthborne Games podcast. I'm your host, Anders Carlson. Joining me is the whole crew of the Earthborne Games team. Evan Simonette.
Hey.
Andrew Fisher.
Hello.
Maxine Newman.
Hello.
Andrew Navarro.
Present.
It does feel like a roll call, doesn't it?
And we're not the whole team. We've got a bunch of other members who
That's
don't
true.
regular on the podcast.
All right. The whole, yeah, right. The
podcast
whole-
crew. Yeah.
That's right.
yeah, the normal podcast crew. That's right. The team is expanding.
Yeah, pretty.
Should we do like a 10-person podcast one day?
I was going to say we could do like an alternate podcast where it's like Chub Frog and Joe and Corey.
Ooh,
B-sides.
Yeah, the B-Sides podcast.
Yeah,
that'd be super cool.
it could be fun.
I like that idea.
Yeah, it could be fun.
Heck yeah.
Let's get ready to talk finance. I was watching. I was CC'd on a email chain between Zach Bunn at Team Covenant and Sean as they were like reconciling our books for the past year, and just watching them go back and forth. I was like, God bless you, sir.
I'm so glad I'm not the one doing this.
That's right. Yeah, Zach was like, it's nice to have another finance mind in the mix.
We could just cut the work stories segment of the show if we do that.
All work stories. Like, let's get into it. How are we categorizing these expenses and various payments?
It'd be like late night C-SPAN or something.
I actually do find it pretty interesting. I just, I'm glad that he is doing that work and knows what he's doing.
Evan, did you ever watch late night C-SPAN to like fall asleep or anything?
No, I mean, I'd only breeze past it while changing channels, but
Man,
I get the gist of it. Despite
Do you?
that amount of
Late night TV, that's a thing of the past. I was
Yeah, it
watching
is.
old like Conan O'Brien clips. I remember like watching it on in this very room. I moved in with my mom, so this is the room I grew up in, and I would watch Conan O'Brien every night
yeah, me too.
on a little black and white TV next to my bed. Kids don't get that anymore.
No.
I feel like the equivalent of like just zoning out to late night TV is like if I'm on YouTube a bit too long, the algorithm stops feeding me like the good stuff and starts feeding me like random stuff, and that's like the closest.
Runs
But I
out,
keep
yeah.
clicking on it because I'm addicted or whatever. That's
Yeah.
probably the closest feeling I have
Or
to
whatever.
back when I used to just be watching like late night TV and random things came on.
Right.
I
Yeah.
The infomercials.
often fall asleep to YouTube, so then it'll just start running through like the next video, whatever that ends up being, and then I wake up and my homepage is like a bunch of stuff that's unrelated to what I've been watching.
The algorithm just decides you're super into something that
Yeah,
like has
yeah.
just been playing while you're asleep.
I'm really into reaction videos now. All of a sudden, according to YouTube, anyway.
Well, that happened to me with playing music for my daughter. Now all of a sudden YouTube thinks I'm obsessed with like Pixar movie soundtracks and stuff. So,
Oh yeah.
which they are. Some of them are pretty good. But
That I noticed that too when I started using YouTube for my daughter. Are you fully embracing YouTube, Evan, for your child?
well, no. Just during bath time, there's a movie
nice.
she really likes called Luca. It's a Pixar
Oh, yeah.
movie. It's really good actually. But she likes the music, so we just play it off YouTube while during bath or whatever. So
I made the fatal mistake of getting Sylvie, my daughter, into it, and I don't know. I think
It was fatal. She's dead.
She's dead. Her brain is dead.
Oh, okay.
Dead to the world as she just stares at YouTube.
it is scary to think about, though. I really don't want to have an iPad kid.
Yeah.
I know. I don't either.
Yeah.
I've already
Is it
exposed Wyatt to
inevitable?
yeah, it might be. I've already exposed Wyatt to some Miss Rachel. That's
Oh yeah.
we and admittedly, he is transfixed by her. Even like
she's good.
other YouTube videos, we'll put other things on the TV. He won't care at all. Miss Rachel's on the TV. He's like zoned in on her. Like, so there's something she does that like directly appeals,
those like one frame per every 3,000 seconds that he can't perceive.
It's just some sort of weird tone that hypnotizes kids.
Those kids
that
like
we can't hear.
Bunch of little Manchurian candidates.
Well, it is a little dystopian because like I bought a nicer TV a little while back, so we have a big TV, and it's up on the wall. And you put Miss Rachel, she's cut off like it's like her shoulders and head on this giant TV, and then our tiny little child is sitting on the floor of the living room and just looking up at this giant woman over him. Like,
that's a little creepy.
Yeah.
Well, I would. Your kids are a little younger than mine. I would suggest holding off on Blippi as long as you can.
Okay. I've heard that name, but I'm not super familiar. No.
I've heard good things about Blippi.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
He grew on me a little bit, but at first it's like so strange. He's doing like I don't know what he's going for. He's not really good at it, but he's kind of going for like a Pee Wee Herman kind of guy. So he's kind of constantly like inserting giggles where they don't belong, but he's just not really. Feels like his heart's not in it. Hugely popular.
I'm intrigued.
Oh, whoa. He's got
like
an outfit,
terrible.
Though. Look at this guy.
He does.
Yeah. He's got
whenever
like,
he's like
orange and blue.
Yep, and he mentions that every time he can. My favorite colors are orange and blue. All right. We've got a great show today. We've got a little special segment right now, and I'm going to read it to you. Or no, I'm going to just talk. Cut. All right. Take two. You know what I really like, though, you guys? Video games. You all know that, right? I talk about them pretty much exclusively on this show. But you know what else I like? Sometimes board games. You know what I really like? Video games that are designed like board games. Like Balatro, for example. What do you guys think about that video game that's like a board game genre? What do you think about that?
What a natural question, Anders.
What an organic topic.
Honestly, though, it's like in defense of the pre-written segment, it's kind of true. You do actually play a lot of video games that are like board games. Just
It's
recently,
true.
there's like Slice and Dice and Balatro and
Stacked Lands I talked about last week.
oh yeah.
Good one. Good writing, Anders. Anders' brain nailed me perfectly. Well, this topic came up. In all seriousness, everybody, let's be serious for a second. Andrew was talking about how he recently finished XCOM 2, which is one of the most notable games that plays like a board game. And we're not talking about games that are based on board games. And we just wanted to talk about it. What do you think of that genre? What are some other... Can you name some other ones in the genre, Andrew Fisher?
Oh, because I was rattling them up before the show.
Hey!
Sorry,
giving away our
We're
secrets.
breaking the fourth wall here. I mean, like, there's a ton. I think we were talking about Armello. Similarly to Armello, there's For the King. If anybody's played it, it's kind of RPG like, but it's definitely got the aesthetics of this board game. I mean, a lot of these ended up becoming board games, which is part of what we'll talk about. But like things like Dwarf Romantic, which is kind of like a tile laying game. Dicey
Game of the year
Dungeon.
last year.
Oh, that's true. Yeah,
Oh,
yeah.
yeah. It was?
Yeah,
Spiel
de Yaris.
Wow.
This Yaris.
There's-
Sorry.
Along the
Video game
lines
of
of
the
like
year.
Slice and Dice, there's games like Dicey Dungeon as well that are kind of the dice games, at least masquerading as a tabletop game, even if they do things that would be impossible on the tabletop. And then, yeah, like to the XCOM comparison, tactics games have that just the turn-based genre feels a bit more tabletop-like. And there's games like Into the Breach that are tactical but more restricted, and so they really get that board game feel because they don't like have these expansive maps that you couldn't practically do on a tabletop.
Yeah, I think playing XCOM 2 this time around, like really, like every time I play I've played the first XCOM a lot of times, but XCOM 2, every time I tried to play it, it was just so hard. I just hated every minute of it. and then it's been a long time since I gave it another try. But I've tried to get into it a couple times. This time around, I was like, you know what? I don't care. I'm just going to save scum my way through this thing. If I make a mistake, I'll just reload.
As God intended.
That's right, and everything will be fine. And it actually, it not only did I feel like, I don't know, maybe they changed the balance of it or something. I don't know. I felt generally easier for some reason. Maybe I was just in a better headspace.
You've just gotten better at games over the years.
Maybe I did end up reloading a fair number of times. Pretty much though, like every time I did, I was like, "Yep, that was a dumb move." Just XCOM 2 just really punishes you for revealing the map at the wrong time on your turn, and sometimes it feels really random and unfair. If those aliens weren't so accurate with their blasters, then maybe I wouldn't have to reload, but it'd usually end up in my squad getting massacred. But I enjoyed it overall. I think I like the first one more. In general, the finale of this one was a little, I don't know, a little flat. But it always makes me think about playing a miniatures game, especially like a small, like squad-based tactical game where you spend a lot of time in cover. All your guys have hit points. Kind of like a Necromunda style game. Feels almost exactly like that to me. Like I think XCOM, and I can't remember. I know we did an XCOM game at FFG, but obviously we went a very different direction with the design of that game. But did anyone ever do like just a straight up XCOM tactical combat board game? That never came to be.
I don't think so.
I don't think so. There are games like it, but nothing that's specifically XCOM branded.
Yeah, I believe the FFG game is the only board game adaptation with the XCOM IP.
Interesting.
I might be wrong. There might be something from the 90s.
There might be something there might be something older.
Okay. Like from the original XCOM.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Did you ever play XCOM, Anders?
No, but I've always wanted to, and I think I will after this.
Yeah, you should.
It's always on sale. It's always so deeply on sale.
Yeah,
so
I think it's on sale right now. XCOM 2 is.
Oh,
yeah.
I will get it.
I still recommend the first one more.
I will buy the game.
Better.
Yeah, I agree. I'm also kind of a sucker for a very, like, XCOM 1 delivers on the fantasy in a very straightforward way of like defending against these aliens, and they slowly get introduced. XCOM 2, while it advances the plot line in a very interesting way, I find like the premise less grounded to me. So it's harder for me to like get into the fantasy because it's like this, bizarre world that has kind of advanced since XCOM 1.
It's like vaguely like Half-Life 2.
Yeah.
It's that same kind of vibe where there's like this, alien overlord world government that you're fighting against.
XCOM 1's shtick is just very straightforward, right? Like defend against the aliens, you slowly discover new ones. Highly recommended, Anders.
Yeah, it's really good. And there's a expansion for it too. That's pretty awesome.
But I think
Let me ask.
to
go ahead,
this
Andrew Fisher.
to the XCOM board game discussion, I think the XCOM board game is actually a really interesting discussion of like adapting these board game like video games, because when Eric was working on that game, he could have very easily just made a 1-to-1 version of the tactical game from XCOM as a board game, right? But instead, he chose to kind of do this, even though it's a digital component to it, take this kind of real-time approach. And it does kind of capture the feeling of the world layer, right?
Yeah.
It just abandons the tactical layer, but it captures the world layer in a kind of an interesting, novel way. And like, sometimes like when Slay the Spire's adaptation just came out, there was a lot of discussion about why should I play the board game when the video game exists? And, it turns out there's some reasons too, because it's pretty good, it sounds like. But
you can play it co-op.
But Eric answered that question in a very different way, which was basically just that XCOM, the board game, is nothing like the video game, right? In some ways.
Yeah.
It offers you a whole novel experience, right?
Yeah. I think it was a really interesting take on it because I feel like the XCOM setting like to me, like doesn't like you wouldn't. I don't think you'd say like, oh, we'd want to put a game in the XCOM setting because all it is just Earth
Alien
with
invasion.
alien invasion.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? There's really
Yeah.
not a whole lot to it that's super unique. But that's ultimately what we did. I think that was a really interesting direction to go. I don't remember at all the rationale behind it. If that was like a decision that Lang made when he was working on it and he had this idea, or if Chris was like looking for a way to do an app integrated game because that was our first game with an app. And Eric had some ideas around it, but I don't remember.
My first interaction with it was playing a prototype he brought. And I know he had talked then when I played it about how he had been interested in doing a real-time game. So it might have just been a confluence of designs Eric had been working on and an IP we had. But I think it actually worked pretty well.
Yeah, it was pretty intense. It was a very intense game.
It's interesting. It like feels like XCOM, but like I said, it's nothing mechanically like it really besides having that kind of overland management sim.
Yeah.
So I thought it was cool.
Maybe it was just like, there's been enough like dudes on a map fighting games. We don't need to do another one. I'm sorry, what were you going to say, Maxine?
Oh, I was just going to say that I vaguely remember, I think it was Eric, but it might have also been Nate or maybe both saying like, let's not make it a one-to-one representation of the video game because at that point you might as well just play the video game. Let's make it something different. I do remember that being a conversation that was had.
Right, because when I think of trying the Slay the Spire game, I just think, well, okay, so it's going to be Slay the Spire, but I have to do the math and counting.
Yeah.
And there's going to be no animation. It's just going to be harder to play. You know, got to set it up. So I think it's smart to do something quite different.
Yeah, I think maybe it's benefited because, like, also like Dwarf Romantic, like you said, that's another game that started as a video game, turned into a board game that, from what I understand, is pretty much the same as the video game.
Yeah, I think it's even more one-to-one than Slay the Spire was.
Yeah, I was going to say, maybe it's because like those games, since they were designed as board games, as a video game, then you're more inclined to do them more one-to-one because there's really nothing else to explore, and that's what people expect. Mm-hmm. You know, like if I played the Slay the Spire board game and it was like, we're going to do a totally different take. It's like the weird dude with the mask and he's on an adventure for something, and you know what I mean? Like, let's get into the deep lore of all these like monsters that you encounter. I don't know if people would like that. They might be disappointed,
especially because the art is not good in that game.
I think it's got its charm.
It's got its charm for sure.
Yeah,
it definitely builds in quality over time. You can see as they released their patches and new content, you can watch them get money, right? Like their art gets better and better as the game goes on.
Have you seen the trailer for the Slay the Spire 2?
Yes.
No.
Yep.
The art is pretty much the same.
Is it called Slay Another Spire?
But slightly better. Slay the Spire 2 looks like the exact same game.
Just more cards?
I don't understand. Yeah, I guess. New characters to play as.
Sure.
I was going to ask an interesting question. Maxine, I'll ask it to you to give you some time to talk. Let's talk about the Earthborne Rangers video game. What are the pros? If you're going to make it a video game, like what are the? Also tying it into like what are the benefits of designing a board game inside a video game rather than a physical game? Like what would Earthborne benefit from having a video game? Is that a dumb question?
No.
That's interesting to think about. I see Earthborne Rangers as being so close to an open world video game. I can imagine it playing somewhat like Zelda or like Breath of the Wild, where you're exploring and you're encountering beings and creatures along the way and picking up missions and basically doing what you do in the board game. But like, I would want to see it like really fleshed out where you can like walk around this huge world and see everything that there is to see. I think that would be super exciting.
Would there be turn-based encounters still, or would it be actual
Who knows?
live?
You're designing it, Maxine, right
I'm
now.
Right now on the
designing it
spot.
right now. Oh my goodness.
Yeah.
I think one thing that I would want to see in an Earthborne Rangers video game that was open world exploration, like you described, Maxine, is I really don't like it when when characters are moving through 3D space and their speed isn't directly related to how their feet are hitting the ground. They're just kind of floating, but their legs are moving. And especially when going up and down stairs, I think I would really want to focus on, because the terrain would seem to be such an important factor in this type of game, that I would want to see the mechanics of the game like work towards that, where like you're actually taking steps in a 3D environment, and some of those steps are harder than other ones, and you can fall over.
It would be like Death Stranding.
Yeah, I was gonna say if you
Yeah.
played Death
Is that how it
Stranding.
goes? Oh, I haven't played that game.
Oh yeah,
Death Stranding's
that's
great.
exactly
Wow.
how Death Stranding works.
Yeah.
Oh,
Yeah.
interesting.
No, when I
was
played
thinking
Death
more
Stranding,
like,
I was like, this game gets it. Like,
Yeah.
Yeah.
yeah, I felt like Kojima and I had a similar idea. Like I've talked about this before about ideas. Where they kind of come to people and they just kind of grab them. I feel like that he and I both caught that same idea, but that was Death Stranding was it filtered through his mind, and Earthborne Rangers filtered through mine. But it felt very. I don't know. It felt like very much in the same spirit, even though it's like dark and weird and very Kojima-ish.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, I was gonna say you could probably patch that game to accomplish somebody or like an artist with modding tools and a lot of time on their hands could take that game and make it Rangersy, right?
That would be a lot of time.
A very different environment you'd be exploring.
Or like one of those like survival games that's been like a big genre recently, where you just kind of exist in a large world and you're like crafting a home and like sometimes fending off like monsters and stuff like that. But there's Ark, there's what's it?
Valheim?
Valheim, yeah. There's a bunch of games like that now.
Yeah, like a Stardew Valley style. That's because that's still survival-ish, isn't it? Or is that
Yeah, I mean, there's no fail
survival
state.
adjacent?
Yeah, there's no fail state in Stardew, but it's kind of
okay.
that similar vibe of like, you're improving your homestead and you're doing lots of different activities that all combine in different ways. Like, yeah,
I think that'd be kind of
good,
cool.
yeah.
Do like Valley Homestead.
I love that. That sounds great.
But what if it's more board game like an XCOM?
Yeah.
I guess like all the video game does is kind of makes it quicker, right? Makes the little nitpicky stuff faster.
Yeah, I mean that's
And would that be a benefit, or would that kind of ruin some of the?
Well, this is one area. I think this is another interesting lens to look at this question through the video game like board game question, which is there's a lot of video games that have board game trappings. Some of the ones I listed, ones like Armello and other things. But I'm going to use Dicey Dungeon. I think it's because it's very simple, right? It's just this game with these sockets, and you roll d6s and you socket these d6s into these places. And so their trappings are this could be a board game, right? But they're doing a ton of things that a board game can't do, or at least couldn't do without a ton of overhead. So like Dicey Dungeon does all sorts of things where you can like modify the cards, add new sockets, change the sockets, or like there's like whole little like branching things where you modify this and it's like this little hidden tech tree underneath this card. There's all sorts of these just emergent, interesting things that require tracking or hidden information that just would be not practical to handle on the tabletop. And I think those are really interesting. And that's something we would try to do when I worked at the digital team at Fantasy Flight. We would try to, with our apps that modified the board games and augmented the board games, we try to do things that board games couldn't do. So to kind of this discussion of like, if you made Rangers into a video game that was more like a board game, So say you did something a little more akin to the card game. I think it'd be interesting to offload some of our fiddly tracking to automation, but also like be able to do things. I would immediately want to do things that the computer can do that we just couldn't really do on the tabletop, right? There's all sorts of interesting things to add depth and make the experience richer and different on digital that I think I'd be tempted to do personally.
Yeah.
One of the things I can see is when you, in a 1-to-1 recreation of a Rangers as a video game, board game, moving like a all-purpose token onto a card, maybe you would change shape into whatever that's supposed to represent, you know? Like it turns into a biscuit or something.
Oh, yeah.
Oh, that'd be cool.
That's cool.
Yeah.
Just fun little touches like that.
Yeah.
Ooh.
Or like something that would be really difficult to do in like the physical medium, but would be easier to do in a video game version would be like the further you travel to a location, the more the path deck changes to become the terrain type that you're like heading towards or something, you know, like that kind of thing. That would be pretty interesting.
And way more dialogue trees and reactivity and like we could do a lot that in a lot more sophisticated ways. There's already a lot of reactivity we wanted to build into the board game, but just crosses that threshold of like fiddliness to manage that we decided was just a step too far, and digital can handle that so much better.
Is Andrew frozen?
Yeah, he's definitely frozen.
Yeah, he's frozen for me. Yeah.
Andrew, if you could hear us, turn it off and turn it back on again. Do we keep on rolling, or are we gonna cut it here,
Yeah, just
Anders?
keep rolling.
All right.
Just keep rolling. Keep talking about it.
Well, I was going to offer that when this discussion first started, I kind of misinterpreted. And I thought we were going to talk about direct 1-to-1 board game recreations as video games, and the one I thought of immediately was I used to play all the time was the Axis and Allies PC game, which is basically just you're playing the board game, but it rolls the dice for you and it does all these things. And I thought it was superior because it got so fiddly when you start building up units in your country and you're trying to move them around and allocate them to places, and you just would have these stacks of, you know.
I was gonna say that's on digital. I can't have my giant stack of tokens, Evan.
I mean, I like the look of it. It makes everything look way more intense. But I guess I'm just sort of a butterfingers when it comes to, you know, trying to move things around. I guess small components around on a board.
Yeah, you can't spill beer on a video game. Well, you can, but
yeah. Goes even worse.
That looks like Andrew lost power.
That's not good.
Oh wow. Oh, there he is.
He's back.
I'm back.
Oh, I was just going to say, let's cut. We didn't cut. And you're back. Wonderful.
Power surge of some kind.
Right. Well, that was a good topic I just organically thought up.
Good job, Anders.
Some good conversation. Let's move it down to work stories, everybody. Who's eager to share what they've been working on? I know it's been a busy time. Everybody reported to me before we started. Let's start with Andrew Navarro. You're back.
Yeah, I'm back. Yep, I was just I had to take a quick second. I was trying to do a little bit more work while we were recording the podcast. No, this week, last week was all about getting the quotes with Delano finalized. And that took a bit of back and forth, but that finally happened. And then the end of that resulted in me transferring the most amount of money to anyone I've ever transferred in my life before for the production of these things. They need half up front. So I did that. And then needed to get them evidence that I'd sent them the money on Monday so that we could get our order in for the paper in on time so that we could go to press in October and then have everything start to go out in December. So that was a little hectic, but that all got done last week. And then this week, I've been trying to work on GameFound update, which I started over the weekend, but then did not finish, and everyone is awaiting with bated breath. So that's been hanging over my head. But this past week, I've been just doing the last final review of everything before we can change nothing.
V2.
That's right. Before we absolutely have no chance to change anything. And then also been working with Evan on like some last minute graphical things, getting some packaging ready to go for our productions at Ludifact. Yeah, it's been there's been a lot. Evan's been a trooper, and a little bit we've been going a little bit too fast. Like I made a mistake this morning because I missed something in an email that we accidentally made some packaging using one die line that was for a different thing. Luckily, it's still basically the same shape, so it won't be too bad to fix it. But yeah, so we're in that stage where we're kind of like, I think both Evan and I feel like, well, I'll just speak for myself. I feel like I'm running very fast, and trying to make sure this is all done before the end of the week. And I think for the most part, we're avoiding mistakes, but it has that kind of intense vibe to it of those last few moments before something goes out to print. So it's been fun. It's a lot, but it's fun. I think it's a privilege to be able to have this be your job. I'm very grateful. Yeah. It's very fun.
Evan, how do you feel when you're in this mode?
I mean, it's intense. I was thinking about this, and I was kind of stressed out last week. And I was thinking about it, and I realized I was really lucky at FFG because I just made packaging and card designs and everything, and I went to another department that prepped the file for the factory. And if there's any like egregious errors, they would say, "Hey, can you fix the bleed on this or whatever?" And I'd do that. But now it's like we are production, and now I'm the one who has to make sure I'm not screwing up, which sounds really weird to say, but like, so I've been just going over everything over and over and over. And like, I'm really happy with how some of the new packaging designs turned out, because there are a few, like I call them FPO, like for placement only kind of prototype things that are on the GameFound, like what the Moments on the Path packaging looks like. And so that packaging got updated, and it looks so much better compared to what it looks like on GameFound. So it's exciting to feel even better about how those look, because there's so many products and so many things to have to complete that you sometimes have to just let things. It feels like you have to let things be how they are sometimes just to finish, but other times you don't have to, and you can make things look better. It's not like we're stuck with the prototype, packaging render that was on GameFound. Even though I think a lot of people would think that looked just fine, but what they're going to get is a lot better. So, I just, there was a really excellent person that we all worked with at FFG named Megan Dean, who was always so helpful. She was like the head of production, right? Or something.
Yep. She was the
for quite a while.
Yeah.
Yep.
She was super helpful, and she continues to help me. I'll message her on Facebook with things like overprinting and other issues that I'm not confident about, and she's always really great about getting back to me. And she's even taken videos of recreate a InDesign file that I've made just to make sure that I made it right, and then send a video of it to me, which is super amazing. And I just am so grateful for that. But I remember, I think Andrew, you mentioned that there's times where you'd see her in her office just like this.
Yep.
And like, I could totally understand.
Yeah, and that's me
'Cause
now.
it's like
That's
the
what I'm saying.
last-
That's I found myself doing that. I'm
Yeah.
like, I understand. I totally get it now. I get it.
Yeah, and like there's when issues at FFG did like a little packaging misprint here and there would happen. Didn't happen very often, but when it did, I immediately felt like, well, it's not my fault. It can't be my fault. It's got to be production. But now it's like, if there is something like that, it's my fault. So it's stressful.
Yeah. Well, we'll get one more review once we get the proofs in, obviously. So,
Yeah. I'll be happy to see those.
Yeah, that's exciting. That Moments on the Path stuff is really cool because we actually got the die line from Delano. It took them a long time to get it to us, but we finally got it. When they sent it over, I was like, wow, this is really cool. It's like this cool like T envelope that's kind of like folds over. And so it has these big like flaps on it. So we created this cool, Evan, created and reused some stuff that we'd had on a previous version of a cover that we didn't use. Yeah, so it was a great opportunity to use that again, and it looks really awesome. It's way cooler than it has any need to be, but I think people will like it.
How about you, Maxine? Has Crunch Week been affecting you? Are you involved in this shenanigans? These shenanigans?
I have not actually been involved in the production stuff. I'm excited because the project that I've been working on, or one of the first of the projects that I've been working on, is going off to playtesters today.
Ooh,
cool!
Yeah, so that's super exciting. I can't
project
wait
is secret project.
Yeah, it's secret for now.
Yeah,
more Rangers. It's more Rangers stuff, but it's no Rangers thing that has been announced.
Yeah.
Okay.
Although part of that is we are playtesting the list formerly known as the Elders No list. we have our rebalanced Ranger cards that we're ready to playtest, so I'm excited to get some feedback on those as well. And that's mostly what I've been doing, is prepping all the files for that and getting rolling on starting writing and other like the next step of development on that.
Awesome.
Yeah.
So is that your first thing at Earthborne that you're involved with that's going to be reaching this point?
First one that's like an actual product, yeah. Because the 1 day mission was technically the first thing that I worked on. Well, I guess the first thing that I worked on was helping with the Legacy of the Ancestors expansion.
Yeah, I was gonna say you definitely redesigned the mission in there.
Yeah, I did. So. Yeah, which was great. That was my first like month or so. Was mostly just playtesting Legacy.
Well, and your 1 day mission, like we play tested it a couple times internally, but like otherwise we just kind of threw it out into the world and let it stick, right?
Yeah,
This one is the one that's the first stuff that's really going to get put through the ringer.
This one people will have to pay for, so it's got to be,
yeah,
certain expectation there.
All right. How about you, Fisher?
Oh, I've also been helping with the file prep. When those guys were talking about it earlier, I was going to liken it to Zeno's paradox a little bit, where an arrow that approaches halfway towards a wall never reaches the wall. Like continuously gets halfway to the wall, you never actually reach the wall. It kind of feels like that, where like you're always getting halfway there, but like you're never going to actually reach the end. Eventually we do, click go, but
yeah.
It can kind of feel like that, but we're very close. When I'm not doing that, work has really spooled up on Corey game, and we're prepping a lot of stuff for that. And so I've been meeting with Michael and doing a lot of work with him to kind of figure out rules stuff, get things in the right place, and so that's been pretty exciting. Though, like, I don't know, for Corey game, how much should we talk about?
I was gonna say, I think we have because like Fisher took on again the role of like This is one of the things I love about working with him, because everything gets to a point to a point where he's like, we really should schedule this out. I'm like, yes, I agree with you. And then he takes that over, and I love that, because we don't really have a dedicated project manager or anything. It's just all these projects just kind of move along under the guidance of our collective experience. But there's always a time that comes where it's like, no, we should really plan these dates out. So we did that yesterday, and I thought that was really good. I think it'd be fun to say, one, that we plan on having this game demoable at PAX. So that'll be an exciting thing. And two, the goal is to announce it during the Game Found Winter Feast, and then we'll be able to talk more about it, and there'll be more information out there about it. So it's only a couple months away. That's like in November, I think. So right before PAX, essentially. We'll announce it, and then you can play it.
Yeah, we'll need to be a little cryptic. I guess we're hoping that the Winter Feast is right before PAX.
Yeah, I'm assuming based on last year it was, and I just got email confirmation today that they want us to be a part of that. So I feel confident in saying that is the plan.
Sweet. Yeah. So getting stuff ready to demo at PAX is definitely the thing that has caused us to start ramping as the Earthborne. The Rangers stuff goes off to the printer. We're able to kind of ramp on this. I will say we did this scheduling meeting, and almost usually when you do these kind of scheduling meetings, you go in feeling pretty good and you leave a little pessimistic because they make you face the realities of all the work you need to do, right? And blocking them into a schedule is usually bad news. I think this one we left more optimistic than we started. So that was unusual scheduling meeting.
Are you sure you did the meeting right?
You're right, Evan. I might have screwed up.
I had that exact same feeling. I went in very, very pessimistic, and then I was like, "Oh, we can totally do this, no problem." So we'll see. I sent out a few emails in the wake of that meeting to confirm some stuff that I haven't heard back yet. So we'll see if we can do everything the way we want to. But so far, so good.
Yeah, but overall, I was feeling really good about it. And it's exciting to kind of get that really rolling. Beyond that, I've continuing my board game work. Unfortunately, that's the can that's been kind of getting kicked by other stuff at the moment. So at a certain point, I need to stop kicking the can and, do something with it that goes beyond this metaphor, I guess.
Paint your can.
Yeah, paint my can. That's me.
That's you. Well, what do you guys say we open up the old mailbag?
Let's do it. You can send your questions in to Earthborne Games, P.O. Box. I forget our P.O. Box.
What's an Earthborne number? Yeah. First of all, we asked for some solo game recommendations last time, and we had a bunch of people in the comments recommending solo games, and some standouts are Mage Knight. Anybody play Mage Knight?
Oh, yeah. I've never played it solo.
I've still never played Mage Knight. I've only looked at it and said to myself, that's a lot.
It looks very complex, and I shy away from that sort of
It's got so many icons. I don't like games that have icon references. It's like committing to learning a foreign language.
All right, Mage Knight, too many icons. Oh, go ahead.
I know you can get used to them, but
Yeah, you definitely can. I think actually I've never played it solo. I've played it multiplayer, and I think it would be a good solo game because it has very thinky puzzles. Like the puzzle that is your hand and how to use it optimally, you can really sit there and think about it. But when you have a bunch of other people staring at you, waiting for you to do that, there's a lot of pressure. So I feel like solo, I can take my time and figure out the optimal use of my turn.
Dust Runner.
Don't know.
I thought that one was interesting. I hadn't heard of this game. It's kind of got this cool neon Mad Max aesthetic.
Like Radlands?
I've never played. Yeah, it kind of looks Radlands-esque. But I hadn't heard of it. So I thought it was an interesting suggestion.
Too Many Bones. It's an expensive one.
Andrew
into
knows
that
something
one.
about that one.
Yeah, I worked on that
Didn't
game
you?
a little bit.
Right.
Yep, just
little bit?
A little bit. Yeah, just a little.
Yeah, what was the company?
It's Chip Theory Games.
Yes, Chip Theory.
Yeah, and I think they're just about to start fulfilling their Elder Scrolls game, which is like a Too Many Bones derivative design. That looks very complex. They do very, very, very complex games. Lots and lots of little systems, a lot of things going on. They're very, very crunchy. But yeah, people really, really like the strategy puzzle of Too Many Bones combined with they have this cool like leveling system where you're always like rolling dice in that game, and it has a bunch of really colorful, cool looking dice. And as you level up, you'll be getting more dice that you can roll to do different things, and then based on the faces that turn up when you roll them, you get to do cool stuff. And
I watched a review on it. It looks super cool.
yeah,
But
it's a cool design. I've only played it a couple of times. I like what I played, but again, it's one of those games that I feel like really benefits from a deep understanding of it. And I didn't have the drive to spend that much time with it.
yeah, it's hard to find that drive. Resist. You played Resist?
I haven't played it. I watched a video review of it. It got nominated for a bunch of awards last year. It's kind of like you playing a resistance movement. It's kind of this card-based war game. Looks interesting.
And then how about Detective City of Angels?
I've played that.
Oh, have you?
Yeah. It was actually, I played a co-op. I thought it was pretty fun. It reminded me a lot of, speaking of video games to board games, it reminded me a lot of LA Noire, if you ever played that game.
Oh, interesting.
It had that kind of vibe to it, where you're like, you're going around to people and shaking them down. And
yeah, I was going to say, did you have to read people's emotions from art?
kind of. Yeah, I remember there being something kind of like that, where you have to kind of suss out whether or not you feel like certain people are telling you the truth or if they're hiding things, and go and
you get
find
a card
more
with
clues.
a guy who looks super guilty. Like.
Yeah, I can't remember exactly how it worked, but I want to say you got different options based on different clues that you find, and then you can visit people multiple times to like learn more from them on subsequent visits. And yeah, I think that would be pretty fun solo. I liked playing it co-op because then you kind of could just goof around and be like old school detectives together. Like an LA Confidential or LA Noire. Take your LA of your choice. Both very similar.
So
yeah,
the
I thought it was
majority-
fun. I only played it once, but I had a good time with it.
I'd say the majority of video games are solo, would you say? And the majority of board games are multiplayer in general.
I used to think
Why do you think that is?
But I think a lot of video games these days are multiplayer now. I think that's
Yeah, I was
the
going to say,
default.
I feel like I don't
think if-
know where the ratio is on video games.
Yeah, it's tough.
Yeah, I think the question is always is similar though. Is like
Yeah.
in a board game, especially the last few years, I feel like and we saw this a bit with our first Kickstarter when we said it was a game for 1 to 4 players. People were like, "But is it?" Because so many games are just like, "Yeah, you can play it solo. It might be terrible, but you can." So people were kind of skeptical of it. So I feel like it's kind of like a checkbox thing. Same thing with video games, where it's like, we got to put multiplayer in here, and then it's like, did you? Because this is terrible.
Yeah, right.
Like why?
Right.
Just so you can put it on the box. You know what I mean? But I
was-
feel
I mean, that
feel
was-
like lately we've been getting away from that, where it's like people are just picking a direction and going.
I was going to say, that was definitely true, like, for the early 2000s, that was, like, classic, right? The obligatory multiplayer, but, like...
Even into the mid
feel like-
2010s, I think.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's true.
Mass Effect 3
like-
says hello.
In
Uncharted
that
2.
multiplayer, I enjoyed that multiplayer.
That
Yeah, but
multiplayer
it
was
didn't need
pretty
to be
rad.
there. No, make it its own
No.
game. Get it out of my single player RPG.
Fun. But I think in modern games, a lot more are just willing to they'll just go full multiplayer, right? Like this is a
Yeah.
dedicated multiplayer game.
Yeah, totally.
Well, I mean, that format makes a lot of money, right? Because I mean, people are buying into seasons or something. I don't know. I've never played a modern multiplayer game, but
Yeah,
I would say
there's a lot of price points. Or
successful
checks.
ones can make a lot of money. Non-successful ones can just fizzle out immediately.
Immediately tank. Yeah.
Wasn't there one with Will Smith as lending his likeness? Or
No.
it was like a Chinese
Fortnite?
multiplayer game.
Oh,
I'm serious.
Really?
I watched a YouTube video on this.
huh.
Or did you go around and like slap each other?
It's a mobile game by Tencent
Yeah,
called Undawn.
Yeah, you know that.
Yeah.
What's his name? Donkey. That
Video
Yeah,
that
video
guy
game
that does
Donkey.
really
Yeah.
funny reviews. I watched something where he reviewed that. Yeah, that's an example of one that didn't do well.
I hadn't heard of it until I just Googled it.
Watch, there'll be a big surge of it because of this podcast.
Oh, yeah.
Tens of people.
Oh, yeah.
Tens. There are tens of us.
Call it the Earthborne bump.
Somebody write that, please, into the Discord. Let's dip into the mailbag then.
Aren't we already in there?
Yeah.
No, we haven't quite. We haven't quite. Asked
Well, that's
any
true. That
real
wasn't
questions
quite that was like the edge of the mailbag.
Yeah, tear up the
Mailbag
letter
adjacent.
rounders.
Mailbag adjacent. Okay, Crazy Barnacles says, if you could have one card from Rangers, be it gear, companion, magic, manifestation, etc., be usable in your personal life, which would it be and why? Alternatively, which card do you think would impact mankind the most?
Oh my gosh. This is a good one.
It is.
Yeah. So, as someone who constantly puts her foot in her mouth and says the wrong thing, I think an intention translator would go a long way for me personally. Yeah.
And for the world,
And
too.
for the world, yeah. That'd be pretty great.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah.
that's a good one. Yeah.
Similarly, mine was Nal's understanding, but because it's more, to me, it feels more like she confers like a psychic ability. I don't know if it's actually what's happening, but in my mind, I like the idea that it's you gain some psychic ESP or something that helps you connect with people and animals.
I would just want to
You all
hang out
have
with
these-
Nal.
You all these deeper, like, answers that relate to like how you relate to other people. That's very nice. And like my mind, when I read this question, immediately just went to, I want the infusion canteen,
Yeah,
so
yeah.
I can like be awake and energetic without having to rely on stupid coffee anymore.
Yeah, that's true.
You could have your future coffee instead.
Future coffee.
Yeah, well,
Sci-fi coffee.
I envisioned it as like, you know how you feel when you drink coffee? It's like that without the bad parts to follow, right? That's kind of how I envisioned the infusion canteen, right? And I
You
want
can make
that.
your own. You fill up. You get 4 compartments. You fill one with Monster. You fill one with Rockstar. You fill one with coffee, and then Red Bull, and they all just kind of mix together
There we go.
in any way you want.
That's our Earthborne merch idea. Infusion canteens.
That's all it is.
Actual infusion canteens. That's a cool idea. It sounds like little canisters. It's like a multicolored pen, except a
Yeah.
Yeah.
canteen.
Love those.
Yeah.
Well, Fisher, I also had a less altruistic one, but it's a reward card, so I don't know if it's spoilers. It's from the core game, so I don't know if I can bring it up. But
How spoilery?
well, I mean, you can. It has to do with possibly flying, I guess. However you want to.
Okay, that
interpret
one's kind of spoilery.
Yeah,
Okay, but
that's
that
pretty
is a
cool.
good one. Yeah,
That is a
that
pretty
one's a good one.
Yeah, good one.
Yeah, I think like I'm more with Fisher, where I just kind of want to play with the cool toys. Like the first one that came to my mind was the Spider Pad gloves.
Oh yeah,
Yeah.
of course.
Because that'd be cool, just to
Yeah.
be able to, scamper. I mean, you still gotta, have some upper body strength so you can climb, but to not have to worry about, getting handholds and stuff and be able to just climb
Would you
up
trust
a
it?
cliff. Yeah,
It's like that kind of thing.
yeah.
Don't they have something? Do they have something like that? I saw it on like Mission Impossible 7 or something.
Really, like get actual. Like,
known for its real technology. Yeah.
I think one of them he had like suction cups.
Yeah, right, like that.
Yeah,
Similar,
Yeah.
right?
yeah. Except I would trust this more than a suction cup.
Yeah.
But yeah, I think the thing that would impact mankind the most is probably just conduits, the ability to
Sure.
manifest, like instantly manifest things, like shape reality around you. That'd be pretty.
There's no money in that.
That'd be pretty big. That'd be pretty big.
Pretty big.
Yeah. Well, you wouldn't want. Yeah, there wouldn't be a lot of money in that because you wouldn't want like that in the hands of everybody for sure.
No.
Only if you had to go through the decades-long process of training and honing your mind that the Shapers go through would you be allowed to have one of these things.
Mm-hmm. All right, our next question comes from Veronica. Speaking of relationships, did we talk about relationships? Do people still get married in the Earthborne setting? Is that something we might see play out in a future expansion, maybe even participate in ourselves?
So I think we were talking about, this was like a follow-up question to a question she had a couple of weeks ago that we answered the first part of. I don't think so. I mean, people do get married in the Earthborne setting, yes. Is it something that you'll do in the game? Like I was talking about this before. I don't think so. I think there's a world where we might have a subplot around some sort of romance maybe at some point, but like I've said last time we talked about it, it's not really the focus of the game. This, again, like I've said before, is I think prime real estate for the role-playing game. And if this is something that you really want to do in a role-play setting, then go for it. But I think it's a little outside of the scope of what we're doing with the card game, personally.
Maxine, are you bummed? You're a fan of dating sims, aren't you?
The Zoe's headcanon.
That's what I said. Yeah, that's what I said last time. I feel like headcanon's more fun when it comes to this type of stuff. Like,
Yeah.
I'd rather, because I think if we like give you an opportunity to marry someone, then like it's like either we have to define who those people are and then make stories around them, and you're like, well, I don't like any of these people. What do I do? Or we give you the option to marry anybody, and then that raises all sorts of weird questions that I don't want to answer. So
Yeah.
All right, we'll leave it at that. All right, next question comes from Cleanse. Will we ever get some lore behind Quizzy's hand and arm?
So I thought about doing this very thing in Legacy of the Ancestors. Because I have in my headcanon, speaking of headcanon, I have in my headcanon what I think happened to Quizzy. But it's one of those things where I was like, yeah, I don't know. I think it could be something that if one day, maybe if we ever like commission fiction or, like longer form fiction, or if like, I don't know, Maxine just he has a wild hair one day and then just goes off and writes the story about the day that Quizzy lost her hand. That we could do something there. But yeah, I thought about including something in the expansion about that, but then there wasn't really there wasn't the word count really to go into the backstory of it. So I don't know. I kind of like it being kind of open. Like you can kind of tell by what she does and how she behaves that she maybe might have gotten into some situation where she could have maybe lost her hand. And I like you being able to imagine what that could be.
I like to imagine that Quizzy tells everybody different stories about it. Like the Joker, but like less evil.
I got an idea. What if for another expansion, all of a sudden, Quizzy is featured with two 2 prosthetic hands, and we don't even talk about it. And we just,
Yeah, by the time she's an old woman, she's just a robot.
Yeah, what's going on with her? I just want to jump back to another lore question that I missed from Grizzamentum. What does Renkobo take across the Mississippian and bring back during the course of his trading? These people want to know what's going on.
Like, what does he bring back to the Mississippian Sea, or like, what does he bring to the valley?
I imagine Grizzamentum would say both.
Well, I
want to
did
know either.
I did write up a little thing about it in the lore book. We talk about it a little bit. But yeah, the stuff he brings back, I think it would be anything that'd be that catches his eye in the valley that the people of the valley make. Maybe he brings back a sweet Dolwood canoe or some like Memlev stuff.
Mm-hmm.
Since the Memlev technology was invented by the people of the valley, I would imagine he probably would bring some of that back. And the Mississippians would dig it. But I also think he's just practically speaking, be like oils and spices, and maybe he brings some fish, some dried fish, maybe some live fish in tanks or something.
That'd be cool.
Yeah. I like to imagine his caravan of goods is just overflowing with all sorts of fun stuff.
invasive barnacles.
Yeah, he's got barnacles on the bottom of his hover sled, zebra mussels. The ancestors solved the zebra mussel problem somehow.
All right, and jumping back to Cleanse, they ask, we have had the pre-made decks for the base game, and these are a great place to start when players don't want to dive into deck building directly from the start. Will there be new deck lists for the expansion? Will there be new archetypes?
I thought this was a great suggestion.
Yeah, I would like to. I think we had planned to do at the very least one new deck for the new sets. So like a Tail Spinner Spirit Speaker pre-made deck, done in the same style as the other ones on the website. But I think the new archetypes for existing specialties could be interesting. I think one appeal of our current lineup is they can all be built out of one box. So I wouldn't want to confuse that with others, because you run into if there's overlap, then like if you own one copy and want to build 4 pre-mades for your friends that evening, it gets more. We need to think about presentation, but it could be cool to do other archetypes.
Yeah, we could have
like
the starter decks if you just have the core set, but then like starter decks if you have everything.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, and that would be a nice way to segment it too. Yeah, like we could do just a different take on those 4 plus the 5th with Spirit Speaker Tail Spinner on like a separate page or something. Kind of neat.
Yeah, that'd be cool. And maybe help people like maybe wrap their head around how to approach those new cards, because we do offer like it does really give you a lot of new options for deck building, even though it's just a small handful of cards.
All right. Next question is for Fish. What is your favorite something book and character? What is it?
It's Cosmere.
Cosmere.
See, why is this just for Fisher? That's my question.
Yeah.
Like no one else on this podcast reads.
Yeah, I just pasted Haley's question as it came. Anybody can answer it. That's fine.
I'm just giving Haley crap.
Trust in the Emerald Sea. Is my favorite book. Light Song from Warbreaker is my favorite character. I think that combination will probably tell, for those of you who know, would probably tell you something about my sense of humor, because for those of you who haven't read a lot of Brandon Sanderson's work, Trust in the Emerald Sea is a new book by his that's basically his attempt to do a Princess Bride style tone in a Cosmere book. And I think that's one of the reasons I like it so much, is it's a little more irreverent and has its like tongue firmly in its cheek, and it's just a little more whimsical and fairy tale-y than a lot of his other books. And then Light Song from Warbreaker is just great. He's funny. He gets a little grating at first, but then he gets funny and but does a lot of very interesting things. And as you can probably tell, I like the less serious characters, but not like so ridiculous as to be like comedic relief, but merely like the characters and tones that are like joking but still have meaningful content underneath the jokes, right? So yeah, that's my answer to that question for those of you who have read some of those books.
All right, thanks, Fish. Nobody else answered.
Well, I know, like, Andrew, you've read some Sanderson books, right?
I have. Yep. I read the first 3 books of the Stormlight Archive, and then the first quarter of Rhythm of War, and then kind of fell off. I also read the novellas in that series.
Mm-hmm.
And I also tried to read Mistborn. I really liked the way that book opened. So like usually my process is when I go to a bookstore, I'll read the first page, and if it grabs me, then I'm like, yeah, cool. All right, I'll get it. So that book, like the Stormlight Archive, also like opens, I think, really, really strong. And like, ooh, what's going on here? But then everything else in Mistborn, I don't know. I couldn't get into it. Like, I didn't like the character. I felt it was just like, I don't know. What I read was like, let's talk about this metal eating system where you eat things, and let me just explain all of this to you, and then explain it to you again, and then again and again, just in case you didn't get it.
Let me talk about my magic system is basically sums up Brandon's a general approach to fiction.
I
don't know. I
didn't
think Stormlight Archive was like that. I like that one a lot more.
I think he turns learning about the magic system into a mystery in his later work. But I think you're right. In Mistborn, he's just like, here it is.
Yeah. Let me tell you all about it. And I just didn't like the character very much. But for me, I think Words of Radiance is my favorite Brandon Sanderson novel that I've read. And I like Kaladin a lot in the early books. He's pretty awesome. And then Lift is pretty great. She's pretty fun. I'm sorry, Evan, I interrupted you. You were saying something.
Oh, I don't remember. I appreciate when authors flesh out a magic system, because when characters are just throwing fireballs and you don't really know the extent of their abilities and they're just doing things, it feels like it's fertile ground for just sidestepping important aspects of a plot.
Yeah. Well, I think, to Fisher's point, I think the way it's presented really means a lot, because like if he had approached it in Mistborn differently, then it could have been more interesting, as opposed to it just feeling like a necessary preamble just so you know how this is working. Like, you're like, let me take you aside and tell you all about this magic system really quick. It's kind of like that. In Stormlight, it definitely evolves, and it's like you're very curious about it, and you learn more about it. And I think there comes a time later where it tips over into, all right, now I know too much and I don't want to know anymore. And it's no longer interesting. Yeah. But like for the 3 books,
there's no mystery.
Yeah. For most of the first 2 to 2.5 books, it was really interesting.
You get some magic system dissertations by Rhythm of War where it gets presented to you.
Yeah. But I think, Fisher and I have talked about this before, like a system that we both really like, both the system and the way it was presented, is Name of the Wind by Patrick.
Yeah, I was just going to say that. I was just going to say that's probably my favorite portrayal of introducing a magic system and stuff.
Yeah, it feels really real. Like it feels like, oh yeah, this is totally how it works. I could go do this right now.
I know. Yeah, I want to reread those books.
Yeah, I've read them a couple times. I like them a lot.
Yeah, I think sympathy, the way he presents the rules for sympathy is interesting, because you can extrapolate from the rules functionalities of sympathy that he hasn't introduced yet, which is really cool. And then he does introduce them, and like
it makes you feel smart.
Yeah, well, and it makes it feel very real and fleshed out, because it like you could deduce the outcomes of this system ahead of time, which was cool.
Yeah, it's really, really cool. Really.
Though I will say, I will defend soft magic systems, as I think like the Force and other softer magic systems have their place as well, especially in narratives. They make for much better metaphors and like representations of narrative and character growth in many ways, when you can just have the magic system do what you need the plot to do. Like,
Well,
I think there's definitely a place for that.
Yeah.
as long as something like that isn't forced to become more than it needs to be, like with the Force. Like, it was so mysterious and cool in the trilogy, and then it just got like, I hate lightsabers now. I really loved lightsabers, and now I hate them.
Yeah, I guess the Force is a fraught example, I guess, but there are many metaphorical magic systems that are interesting.
Yeah. Well, like, I mean, Rangers has a very, very soft magic system, just like kind of like soft sci-fi. I like that Star Trek style sci-fi the most, which is just like, yeah, it's like science. It's just like this technology. It does this. So you put the thing in the thing, and then this other thing happens. Like, oh, okay, get it. Dilithium.
It's a cool name. I like that. Yeah.
Nailed it. Go for it. Yes.
But I agree with you,
Tachyon
Andrew.
particles.
I think Kaladin's my favorite character too. But I can't. I also, it's been a while, so I don't remember a lot of the other characters.
Well, I think that says something, though.
The only Cosmere novel I've read so far is Yumi and the Nightmare Painter, which I know is kind of its own thing, like off to the side. It's technically Cosmere, but I don't know any of the connections.
I'm smiling because, like, if you asked me what book is the most Maxine,
that's why I want to read some of his other stuff, but that one just spoke to me immediately. Like, just the cover, I was like, okay, this book is for me. Like,
What's it called?
Yumi and the Nightmare
Yumi and the
Painter.
Nightmare Painter. Yeah.
You
Now,
and me.
Does Steelheart qualify as Cosmere, or is
I
that
don't think so. I don't think it is.
okay?
He doesn't just
enjoyed
put
that.
them all in Cosmere. I thought like all of his books.
No, he has like a whole series of like young adult novels that are in an entirely different kind of sci-fi setting.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, I haven't read them, but
They're in a different galaxy.
yeah, probably. Yeah, there's just too many light years between them.
That didn't stop Stephen King.
That's fair.
That's true.
Thanks for your question, Haley. If you want to see what I look like when I'm pretending to pay attention, just watch that last segment.
Sorry, Anders.
It's fine. I'm just doing my job. The next question comes from Turd the Third. Or is it Turtle?
I think it's
I think
turtle.
it's Turtle.
Turtle.
Turd the Third.
That's what I
Descended
was
from
doing.
a long line of turds.
It's hard to tell with the font.
Turd
Anyway,
ill.
I'll just call him Turd for
Like,
short.
super dope.
I think it was mentioned in previous episodes that an RPG setting might serve to expand the lore. Would that be in place of or in addition to more World of EBR style content?
Andrew?
I'm thinking. I got distracted because Pam sent me a message on Discord and wants to meet. I can't meet right now, Pam. Sorry. Yeah, I feel like it would be an addition. Yeah, I don't think it would just cover the stuff that's in Earthborne Rangers, and be limited to that. Is that what this question is asking? I guess I'm a little,
I think
confused.
it's more asking like, will there be other World of EBR style books, or if we release more just pure lore information, what form will it come in? Will it come in the RPG? Will it come in other books? How do you want to teach people more about the setting?
Yeah, I think it'll be the RPG at this point, because like I think part of our thinking on the World of Earthborne Rangers when we thought to do it initially, it was just, we had all this writing already. We brought in Lisa to help clean it up and then to write some new stuff. But I want to say, I don't know, 80% of it was already pretty much written by Sam. So anything new we'd make would have to be newly commissioned work. And I think if we're going to do that, then we should put it into a game that you could engage with. And we could bring in stuff from the world of Earthborne Rangers. We can have some new stuff. Yeah, I think that's probably most likely, because I think people, I've also seen questions maybe in the general chat on the Discord about, are we going to do a book that has Legacy of the Ancestors stuff in it? And I definitely thought about it for a hot minute, but then, just realized that the amount of writing we have for that compared to the stuff we had at the front end of Earthborne Rangers before we even started is not a book's worth. It'd be much more art heavy if we were to do one.
Well, I think both Legacy and this next expansion as well both have this challenge where the story is what we want you to learn.
Right.
The Valley is this place that already existed and that your characters and other people maybe grew up in and know something about. So we wanted to teach you about this and make you feel at home there. But Legacy and the next expansion we're going to do are all about you exploring a location that your characters probably have no familiarity with. So, it might be cool to do the omniscient view story of what's actually going on there. The story we want you to experience is the story of playing through it and discovering it for yourself. So those just need a world book a little less.
Yeah, that's a really good point. And that reminds me too, because we did have a section originally when we blocked out the World of Earthborne Rangers that had stuff that was plot relevant that we just cut because we're like, this doesn't make any sense because we have this whole story around stuff that's unknown to you, and then we're just going to tell you everything about it in these couple pages in the world book. So it's like, we should definitely cut that. Yeah, that's an excellent point.
All right, final question comes from Madova. On the Discord, there's a lot of talk about the viability of a card at certain player counts. Some cards are more effective in higher player counts or better for lower player counts. What are your thoughts on providing guidance to players on what player counts certain cards are good for? Would you ever restrict cards by player count, like a game such as Power Grid?
Yeah, I think this comes out of discussions. There's a card of the day channel on Discord where they talk about different cards from the game. And I'd be curious to hear your opinion as well, Maxine. But my opinion is basically that we generally don't provide you guidance on how to use the cards. We provide the cards, and the mechanics pair interestingly and try to signal for you to do things, but we don't tell you how to build your deck or how to use those cards in play. Part of the game and part of the experience is figuring that out for yourself.
Yeah.
So some cards are good or better or worse at higher or lower player counts, but that's for kind of you to discover would be my kind of take on it.
Yeah.
Maxine, what do you think?
I agree. I don't think we would ever, I certainly don't think we would ever restrict cards by player count, with a button that says 2+ or,
Yeah.
I think that that discussion that's happening on the Discord, that's a very natural and good and healthy thing for a card game to have, and we wouldn't want to limit that discussion by injecting what we think are the official opinions. We want players to have that discussion. We want players to have those debates and talk about the cards, and it's good for the community and it's good for the overall health of the game. And I think that part of the joy in a card game is discovering more about these cards as you play. You play a game for the first time, you have your opinions about these cards, and then you play it a second time and you're like, oh, this card actually did something different this time than I expected. And now all of a sudden my opinion of this card has changed completely. And that's part of the joy and discovery in a card game.
Cool. Well, thanks for the questions, everybody. Sorry, I was zoning out again. One of those days. Andrew, you're muted.
I was going to say, you're very engaged. Very engaged today.
I'm prepping in my mind what I'm going to say next because it's now time for Anders.
Like a normal conversation.
Is it my turn yet?
Yeah. Let me tell you about myself.
Oh. What?
I'm curious, Anders, what games you have for us today.
Well, yeah, that leads us to Anders' Game Corner, stuff we're into. My sister was in town. Feel free to zone out, you guys, if you want to.
I'm going to.
My sister...
What?
You're going to?
Watch
Just take a
these
nap.
cows on the hill over here.
Yeah, take a nap, Maxine. Go ahead. My sister was in town. Please hold that pose. Yeah, there we go. Yeah, everybody show something else.
We're gonna watch Andrew's cows now.
Can you see
Are
the
there
cows?
I don't see
in the
You're
distance
pretty
there?
low res over
Brown?
here.
Brown one.
Yeah, there's a few of them on the hill over there.
Good cows. Sister was in town. We were playing some games at night, and the past couple of weeks we played. I don't ever want to play it again. We always bring out Cards Against Humanity, and I always hate it. Sometimes it's funny, but usually I'm just like, this is kind of dumb.
Yeah.
But then we also played that Spots game that I talked about last week. That was fun. And we played The Chameleon. Have you ever played The Chameleon?
I've seen
No.
it. I've never played it, though.
Yeah, it's like a
I like the
party
box.
game. Yeah, it's a bluffing game. So there's cards in these bigger cards in the middle that have a category and then a bunch of words within that category. So maybe Broadway plays, and then it'll be a bunch of those. Three of you know what the word is going to be. One of you is the chameleon, and so you all go around and you say a word that is related to that word that you know. So the chameleon has to kind of suss out what the word probably is and lie, and it's really stressful when you're the chameleon. And there's a lot of that. The most fun part is after you go around and say your words, the table talk of kind of like, it's definitely you because you didn't say it quick enough and blah, blah, blah. It's a fun one. It's a really good party game if you're sick of apples to apples and that shit. And then we tried to play Scout, which is not really a game that I would expect my family members to like that much. It's a Wink game, such as a little tiny box and really simple, like trick-taking kind of game. I heard a lot of great things about it recently. And I thought it was just kind of fine. Like it was just kind of, I don't know. It just felt like everything came down to like, look at your hand. You kind of know what the best thing to do is. You do it. Next person's turn.
Yeah.
Go around. You know what I mean? I don't understand the hype about it. Maybe once everybody is really familiar and you're playing it for the 10th time, you can like new things emerge. I don't know.
I do like the like strategy. I like that it has kind of the strategic layer of trying to like plan your hand and like, do I try to play cards out of my hand to like bring pairs to like sets together? Do I try to like concoct a run since your hand is in this fixed position, trying to play cards out of it to create better plays?
Yeah.
It kind of gives you short-term versus long-term thinking in that hand management. And I do think that's kind of cool.
Right. There is some depth that comes out of it. And it's a good game. Solid little game. And it's quick. And then I played a video game called Leap Year, and it's $4.99 on Steam, and it's such a me game. I finished it like in 2 sittings, and it took me about 3 hours.
Is it a time travel jumping game?
Time travel.
Leap year.
Oh, there's jumping. There's you collect calendar squares, the days of February.
Okay.
There's no time travel involved.
Only in that we are all traveling through time at all times.
Exactly.
Yeah, everything's a time traveling game.
Right, it is. You're traveling through time. I loved Leap Year so much. It's just so well designed. It's really simple. It's just like a puzzle platformer kind of thing with great surprise. I feel like I shouldn't even say that. There's surprises, and it's really fun. I liked it a lot. Check it out. $5. If it looks like something you'd be into.
I'm going to have to. I feel like anytime you introduce these games, Anders, I Google it, and it's like 10 out of 10, like everybody beloved and cheap. So like, how can I not play it?
Did you try Stacklands at all?
I haven't yet. Though it is, I did wishlist it for now. I've just been very busy.
As it went on, I think my recommendation goes down a little
really?
bit on that. It just kind of felt a little grindy, and it just kind of peters out. But Leap Year is just a solid, the pacing, the way, it's got a, the arc of the story. There's no words in it, but, I like stories that have no words.
Did you end up trying that Chance of Sonar game?
No, but I will. It's on my wish list as well, waiting for a sale.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. All right, that's what I've done.
Enjoy the Earthborne bump, Leap Year.
Oh, good one. How about Maxine?
Well, I had my birthday last weekend.
Happy birthday.
Hey,
Happy birthday.
So I haven't had as much time to play stuff because I've been busy hanging out with people and doing birthday stuff. But
Awesome.
I did pick up a game called Death May Die, which is kind of like a Vampire Survivor, if you've played that, or any of those kinds of games where you're just kind of like moving around a map while hordes of enemies come at you and you have to just kind of last as long as you can.
Is it like a constantly shooting game?
Kind of, yeah, except what's interesting about it is you play as one of 6 different classes, and most of them are melee. So it's different from something like Vampire Survivors, where you're almost always just shooting projectiles out every which way. It's less of a bullet hell kind of experience and more... it's more like if Diablo and Vampire Survivors had a little baby. It's pretty cool.
Mm-hmm.
I dig it.
Okay, because that could go multiple ways. Like that could just be terrible.
Is it called Death Must Die?
Death May Die, Death Must Die. Yeah, Death Must Die.
Must.
Yeah, that's what it is. Yeah, Death
I've
Must
had my
Die.
eyes on that one.
It's pretty
for
neat.
a while.
It's cheap.
Is it? Cool.
Yeah.
Do you like
it's very
Vampire
grindy.
Survivors?
It is like Vampire. Yeah, I do like Vampire Survivors. It's
This
feels
always looks like it's trying to do like Hades kind of thing where there's more story and is that right?
certainly more than Vampire Survivors, which is to say more than 0. But not nearly as much as Hades. But
Right.
it's definitely trying to mimic some of what made Hades so successful. The way that the way you gain blessings as you play is very similar to Hades, where like they'll pop up and it's one of a different pantheon of gods. And so there's like a goddess of fire, and there's a goddess of ice, and there's a god of war, and so on and so forth. And you're just trying to kill death. That's like the ultimate goal. So yeah, I dig it. It's very grindy. I've played it a bunch of times and I haven't made like any progress. So, but it's a good game for when I'm zoning out and I'm just sitting on the couch and I'm just,
Yeah.
Their hand animated particle effects and explosions look really pretty. Those are cool.
it is definitely a prettier looking game than most of these kinds of. I don't even know what the genre is called, but like there's a lot of
Horde
Vampire
Survival, I
Survivor
think.
clones. Yeah. I also picked up Fields of Mystria, which is like a Stardew Valley kind of esque game. I played the demo for it a while back, and it was really fun. And it's finally out, so I picked that up. That's like maybe $15 on Steam, and it's adorable. It's just so cute. I like it.
Clouds of Mystria?
Fields of Mystria.
Fields of Mystria.
I like the pixel art.
Yeah, I love me some good pixel art. Like that is my jam. So both of these games have pretty decent pixel art. So yeah,
I do love it myself. Evan, how about you?
I started back into Baldur's Gate 3 just because I want to try to finish it because there's so many games I never finish.
What act are you in right now?
I'm in Act 3, and
Ooh.
I
long
remembered.
one.
Yeah, I
It's a
know.
long
Well,
one,
the reason I lost steam on it was because there's so many things you feel compelled to chase down all these leads and these side quests, and as I picked it back up, I remembered the reason I stopped playing was I feel like I started to go into this one-way mission where if you back out, you just lose your chance to complete it. And I didn't realize that, until I looked it up afterwards, and I'm like, well, damn. I guess I screwed that up because I'm really trying not to reload my game and do things right. So then I kind of stopped playing. But anyways, I'm back into it. I'm pretty close to the end. I think I just have to confront one of the big three. Andrew, did you beat it?
I did.
Okay, yeah, I have one remaining. I don't know, one of the balls chosen or whatever that guy's name is.
There's more to do after that, my friend.
Yeah, well, I know there's more, but if I did confront one of them, and it felt really cool. But the reason I thought it was fun to bring up as what I was into is I also did you make a deal with Raphael in that game? He's like a demon.
I did. Yeah.
Did you try to undo it?
I did.
Okay, so I did that, and I was surprised at the battle, especially the battle music.
So good.
And I was
so
like,
good.
It felt so. So this is my reaction was, the battle starts. It doesn't even sound like battle music at first, and I'm just like, what is happening? And it on my first reaction was, it felt cringy, but I kind of liked it. Like, and I was wondering if I won't elaborate, but I was curious if you all had experiences with songs that you heard and you're like, this is a really cringy song, and like it's subjectively probably like people think it's terrible, but I kind of like it and I hate that I do or something.
I don't remember it. It does not
so
stick out in my mind at all.
Okay, well, as spoilers, the guy you're fighting, Raphael, he's singing like his own song, his own battle song.
He's got his own boss music that he's singing, that like the voice actor is singing.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
It's
really?
funny. It's funny that you say that, because I feel like that song and that battle is like pretty universally loved among.
I know,
the
and
fan base.
I'm totally. It kind of exposed how I think about myself. Maybe, I don't know, because that's what I saw too. Like on YouTube comments of the song, I'm like, wow, everyone loves this song. I heard it and I thought I'd be the only one that liked it. And I was like, I don't know. So
Wait a
Is
minute.
the
Wait a
fact
minute.
that it turns
So
into
is
a
this
musical suddenly?
I need to ask this question because I did not get this. Like, this did not
Okay.
happen for me.
it's not as big as I'm making it out to be.
But I mean, Raphael's, he's the, obviously, spoiler alerts for Baldur's Gate 3 if you've not played Baldur's Gate 3.
Sorry, Fisher.
Is he the devil that you meet early in the game and he's like, hey, I got this, I'll do this thing for you if you'll do this other thing and blah, 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 blah.
Yeah.
And then you go into his little pocket dimension
Yep.
and you fight him. He didn't sing in my battle with him.
Really?
Well, maybe did you fight him in Act 3?
I fought him. I don't know when I fought him. I was went and was like, I'm gonna go do this now. Yeah, because you have to do it from Baldur's Gate. So that's Act 3.
In the House of Hope.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Huh.
Oh, okay.
Maybe you
But
had like
he did
the
not
music turned
sing.
down or something.
No, I don't remember him singing. But yeah, maybe I did have the music turned down. I don't know.
Yeah.
It's possible.
Well, he's not singing the whole song, but he's just, he has some notable lines in it.
Maybe I had. You can go back on. Yeah, maybe I had the volume turned down for that. I don't know. I don't remember that though.
I'm allowed back.
Yeah, you're allowed.
I remember it being a very epic battle, and I was very, very happy with my spell selections going into it. It bailed me out.
I lost the first time, but the second time I surprisingly won. I thought I was going to have to try several times, but I had 2 warlocks in that battle, which didn't feel very good. Why do I have me and the other warlock doing this? So, anyways, that's my what I'm into. I'm looking forward to finishing that game.
Nice.
We
You're
should
almost
do a 4-player Earthborne
Yeah.
coworker
Co-op
campaign
stream.
of Baldur's Gate.
Well,
Yes.
I'm actually
Cool.
I'm rushing to finish it because I'm gonna start playing 2-player with my brother-in-law like
Nice.
every other Thursday night
Nice.
if it
It
works
is
out.
sweet.
so much fun with other people.
Really?
It is so much fun with other people. I played me and my friends played like a 4-player, we're all bards, and it's like we're a band. And it's absurd. It's so much fun.
Nice.
Well, that's what I'm thinking. When I play again, I'm going to be a bard because I've never done that. Because in actual role playing, I do not have the actual charisma and the yes and improv ability to be a bard successfully. So at least in Baldur's Gate, like I don't have to hold up that end of the experience.
Those are one of my favorite characters ever I played was a halfling bard.
Nice.
Yeah, he was super fun. I don't know if I've shared the story on the podcast before, but yeah, I had trouble getting into him at first, but then I think on the second or third session, I just decided to like replace my chair with a cushion at the table, so I was like shorter than everybody else, and just my head over the table,
just peeking up.
Interesting.
Yeah,
That's
and that did it. I was like, I was able to get into the character. It was super fun. Yeah, it was a great time.
That's awesome.
That is awesome. Andrew Fisher, how about you?
Yeah, I actually had some time to play some video games with friends a little bit, and we booted back up Hunt Showdown, which we kind of fell for they like re-released it under, it's now Hunt Showdown 1896, but it's really the same game. It's really just a big patch. There's a bunch of new content, but like I don't know if it really warranted a whole new name. And like they also have the event, so like if you're also talking about the current event, it's like Hunt : Showdown : 1896 : Scorched Earth. But it's cool. They've added a bunch of new stuff, and I think many episodes ago I talked about why I love this game, like its sound design and everything. So all of that still holds true. It's been really fun to go back to, and we have a decent number of friends playing right now, so you get on and match up with different groups, and it's pretty fun. It runs on like the Cry engine, which is pretty demanding, and like with the new patch, it's not quite running as well on my computer, which is kind of a bummer. Like I have a top end, it's a laptop, so it doesn't have as much power as most computers, but it has an RTX 3080 in it, and so like your 5-year-old game should run on my computer, I guess, is like I'm a little salty about that, but otherwise it's been fun to get back into, but that's the main thing.
All right, cool. Andrew Navarro.
Yeah, it was my birthday this past week also, or 2 weeks ago.
Same birthday?
Happy birthday.
No, 3 days before Maxine's
3 days apart.
birthday. Yeah.
Wow.
But I turned 50. Big
Hell yeah.
The big 50.
Hey,
Wait, when are your birthdays?
August
respectively?
14th.
August 17th.
Wow. So close to my mother's. Leo's.
Leo's.
Yes.
Yep.
Yep.
All right.
The
You
best,
turned 50.
The best sign.
It's true.
What's it like?
do you feel different?
I did. You know what? I feel like I've been saying to myself, I think I felt similar to this in my late 30s too, where it was like from like 37 to 39, I was like, yeah, I'm practically 40. But then you turn 40, you're like, well, shit, I'm 40. Like,
Yeah.
It was like that this time, like, or I felt like I've been essentially 50 since I turned 47. But it feels very different to like
Say you're 50.
actually, like, no, now you actually are 50. Un media teja, as they call it down here, which I liked, which is like half of 100. It's like,
Yeah, I like that.
yeah. Like for some reason they call it like the 100, the 100 coin down here at Teja. So half of 100. So I liked that. But anyway, I had a little get together at our place over the weekend and played Skull again. That was really fun. I tried to explain how to play Skull in Spanish, so that was challenging. But it was cool because everyone at the table was like encouraging me to try. So that was fun. I played through XCOM 2. Like the day after my party, I was totally wiped out. My back hurt, so it's like I turned 50 and then my
Very
back
appropriate.
started hurting. Yeah, I know. It's like a cliche. So I was like laid up most of Sunday, just feeling uncomfortable, and I played through a bunch of XCOM 2 and finished it. That was fun. And then just a couple nights ago, I think Wednesday, I downloaded Black Myth Wukong, which is this new third person action game, difficult, vaguely Souls like, but has more like it's skill tree based instead of stat based. So you're just unlocking abilities and stuff, going down trees. Very hard.
I love the character design.
Yeah, it's cool.
Animation.
Yeah, the very beginning of it was pretty awesome. Like, there's a flair to that game that I really appreciated, and the design, the art, just the look of it is, it's really really pretty stunning. But I started playing that. It's very hard. Like I've said before, I have difficulty with boss battles, and there's a boss battle almost right away, kind of like in a Souls game where it's like, here's this boss battle, go and just beat your face against this multiple times until you feel like turning off the console. So I feel like I've already played like an hour. Yeah. Yeah, exactly. Very
let
clear.
us be clear about the kind of experience you're about to get into. Right?
Yes. Yeah. The one thing I do like about it better than a Souls game is that it's similar to a Souls game where it feels very well designed in that it gives you the opportunity to experiment with strategies and like learn through doing what works and what doesn't. So I do feel like I'm making progress toward actually beating this boss. And I also like that you don't lose your experience, your souls in this game. You just can kind of keep running through and leveling up.
There's no parrying, I heard too.
Yeah, there's no parrying, there's no blocking, it's just dodging and running around. You're very mobile. And I think that's one thing that when I looked up how to beat this boss and I watched a video of someone doing it so I could, oftentimes it just helps me to see it being done so I know it can be done. And then I'm like, oh, then it becomes easier. But in the video, like the person in the video was like taking far more advantage of the space than I was. I was like getting in there like really close and just feeling like I had to be close and fighting the whole time. You don't have to do that. You can just run around this whole arena. You have a bunch more space. You're super mobile and very fast. So I was like, oh, okay, yeah, that makes sense. I should do that.
You know what bothers me about these games? They're so beautiful and well animated and everything is stunning. And then when you're fighting these monsters and stuff, you'll be hitting them or doing whatever, and they just don't react in any way.
Yeah.
They're just like slashing their leg and they're just carrying on as if
Yeah,
nothing's happening.
that was a little something.
Just feels kind of dumb.
Yeah.
The only feedback is that the power bar is going down.
Yep, numbers fly off of them.
Yeah,
classic.
Strange.
Yeah. So anyway, I'm going to keep trying that. I'm this evening. I'm planning on going in for round 3 against that boss to see if I can progress past the first entry, the first area. What's that?
Is it that wolf-looking creature?
No, he's a separate boss. He's an optional boss.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, I don't want to like one boss at a time, man.
One boss at a time.
That's right.
And that brings us to the end of our show. One boss at a time. Thanks for joining us, everybody.
Headbutt that like button.
Oh, yeah. Oh, that was a big hit. Hey, what did the numbers look like last week after all that?
They're about the same.
A lot more likes.
Were there?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, we had a lot more likes. We had a lot more comments.
Nice.
We appreciate you body slamming the like button or at the bell.
Yeah, body
I missed
slamming the
all
bell.
So did it equal new subscribers or more views though?
Well, no, I don't think so.
Okay, guys, you don't have to do that anymore. Thanks for trying. No, please do. Please keep doing that. And see you next time. Bye.
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 See ya.